Welcome back to the vlog. I hope everyone had an enjoyable Thanksgiving weekend. We're going to be playing over at Capital Casino in their 1-3 game. We buy in for $500. This will cover 2 days of last week that I played good in some spots and really bad in others. So I'll let you guys decide which ones were which. Anyway, sit back, relax, enjoy. Here it comes. This folded me in the +1. I got king, queen, offsuit, decided to raise to $15. I get one call from the player in the hijack. So it's just going to be heads up with $34 in the center. We get a decent flop when it comes out. Queen 10-6 with 2 hearts and a spade. I decided to check it over to him. He quickly checks it back. Now this is someone who I played with before, and I have to be a little deceptive. That's why I checked on the flop. And he usually bets top pair in just about every situation when checked to. So I don't think he has a queen. And he probably bets most of his flush draws at this point also. So I'm really taking that out of his range. Turn card comes as a 6 of spades. It brings up a second flush draw and it pairs the bottom card. It's possible he has a 6, but I'm going to find out by betting $30. He puts in a quick call. I think if he had a 6, he'd probably protect against a flush draw and raise. So I don't think he has a 6 at this point. River card comes as a 4 hearts. Well, I don't think he has a flush draw. I don't think he made a flush. Maybe he had some sort of pocket pair and he thinks I'm bluffing at it at this point. So I go ahead and fire on the river. He tanks for a little bit and then he tanks some more. Seems like he's not a believer, but eventually he does find the fold. Which leads us right into the very next hand where the player on my right skips his blind, and so now I'm in the big blind with Jack 10 offsuit. Player at the end of the table who was involved in that last hand raised to $10. One player called. I decided to call for the $10. The flop comes Queen 8-7 rainbow. I do flop a gutter to the nuts. I check it over. He bets $15. The other player folds out and I decide to put in the call. Turn card now is a 9 of spades. We make the nuts. I check it to him. He checks it back quickly. River card comes as a 6. It's time to get some value, but I think that he's a little suspicious of me from that last hand, so might as well go for a larger size bet. I make it $60. This should be big enough to look like a complete bluff, and if he has anything, I think he might consider putting in a call. As I say, I think he was suspicious on the previous hand that I might have been doing something funny, and I think that his curiosity is going to get the better of him. He compiles $60 in front of him, slides it in, I show my hand, and we win another one. I'm in a small blind with 5-6 suited. I decided to complete to the $3, so 4 of us see a flop. That comes Jack 4 deuce with 2 hearts, 1 diamond. I got a flush draw and a gutter. Check it over to the under the gun player who bets 17. I decided to put it in the call and see what happens on the turn. Turn card is a king of clubs. Of course this card doesn't help at all, but I could definitely represent a king here if I had some sort of king high flush draw. And this player is a little bit timid when someone bets out big, so I decided to make a pot sized bet for $50. I'd rather just take the pot down here, but he decides that he is not going to give up that easy and puts in a call. So it looks like we're going to have to make our hand on the river, but we don't. It comes to the 5 of spades. Well, I was debating whether I should go for the bluff or just check it over to him because we do have some showdown value now that we can beat a lot of flush draws, unless he has the king high flush draw himself. He missed, right? So a pair of 5s might be good, but I'm pretty sure he had a jack from my read on him earlier, and I decided just to put him to the test and shove all in. He quickly calls and shows that he had king jack, so not good timing on my part. Well, I'm trying to shake off that last bluff attempt. Here I have queen 9 of spades in the hijack. There is a $6 straddle. I decided to open for $25. It's full around to the straddler who decides to put in the defend, and we go heads up to a flop with 54 in, which comes out the beautiful queen 7 with 2 diamonds. He checks it over. I'm going to continue for small sizing with most of my hands, so I bet 20. He puts in the call. Turn card is a king of diamonds. Not the greatest. he could have some sort of flush draw. And by checking this hand back after he checks to me, I think this can really disguise my hand. So I decided just to go ahead and do that. Of course, you take the risk of a diamond coming off on the river, but instead I get the 9 of hearts. So I make a full house. Since I check back the turn, I expect my opponent to bluff frequently here, and he decides to bet for $60. Now he could have a real hand like a flush. In that case, I want to raise the maximum because he's not going to be folding. If he has some sort of bluff, any kind of raise, he would fold to. So sizing wise, I am definitely going to be raising, and I'm definitely going to be putting in all my chips. As I said, if he has a flush, he's going to pay me off. If he has a bluff, he's not going to pay off anything. After some thought, he decides just to let it go, so I'm pretty sure he was bluffing. There is a $7 straddle on this hand. I have pocket sixes in the low jack. I raised to $25. It's folded around to the player in the small blind, who is a very tight player and very deliberate with his bets. He raises to $51. Okay, in my experience, this is always aces or kings, maybe queens. I think this is an excellent spot to go ahead and set mine. If I hit a set, I don't think he's ever folding any of those hands, and we can double up. So I go ahead and put in the extra $26, and the two of us are going to head off to this flop. Looking for a 6, praying for a 6, but that's not what we get. Instead, we get 8, 7, 5. Pretty good alternative to a 6. We flop an open-ender, and I think a 6 would be good too. So we have 10 outs to his overpair. The only real issue is he might not pay me off now if I hit a 6 or a 9 or a 4, because there's a lot of cards in my range that he would have to dodge. He bets out for $55. Of course, I'm going to be continuing here. I put in the call, and we see a queen of diamonds on the turn. Of course, this is not the card we want to see. I expect him to make a big bet, and we'll have to make a crying call, but he checks it over, which is rather unusual. I really felt if he had aces or kings here, he would bet. Maybe he thinks I had pocket queens? I don't know, but I think that's rather odd. The other thing that went through my mind is he might have a hand like ace king of diamonds once in a while, and he picked up a flush draw. Well, the river card comes as the 4 of diamonds. So now if he had ace king of diamonds, he got there. I think he would probably make a big bet in this situation, but instead he makes a bet of $70, which is rather small. So it's kind of like a blocker bet. So there's like no doubt in my mind that I'm calling 110% of the time here. That's given, right? The real question is whether I can get any extra value by raising, because the board is so wet that even if he has aces and kings, would he pay me off? And there is a small possibility that he actually has ace king of diamonds here. I mean, I put him on aces, kings, sometimes queens, but maybe he's mixing up his play and slipping in a few ace king suiteds, and maybe made a small bet just to see if I would come over the top trying to steal it. Well, I think the only play I have here is just a call. So that's what I do. Let me know what you would have done. He shows pocket kings. I take it down with a straight. The following day I came back and played, and this is like I think the second or third hand off the deck. I got king 9 suited, and there was a straddle pot for $6. One player limps. I raise to $25. Player on my left goes all in for $53. Not the greatest feeling in the world when you have king 9 suited, but at least it's not going to cost me too much more. Now the initial straddler at the end of the table, he decides to cold call the $53. He can have a pretty strong range here. I don't think he has any big pairs because I think he would isolate. So a lot of ace king, ace queen type of hands I would feel. I make the call. I don't want to isolate a player that probably has a better hand than me, so calling is my only choice. Flop comes out, jack 4 deuce rainbow. He quickly checks it over. There's no value in betting here, so I just check it back. Turn card comes is a king of hearts. It does bring in a straight draw and a flush draw. My opponent now decides to bet for $60. I don't like this. Probably not ahead at this time, but he could have some sort of draw. So I decided to make a questionable call for the $60. And I get instantly rewarded when it comes the 9 of spades on the river. My opponent now leads for a small bet of $35, kind of a blocker bet. I jam all in. If he has King Jack, good for him. If he has Queen 10, good for him. If he has Ace King or something similar to that, very good for me. It looks like I might have made some sort of straight with Queen 10. And he tanks for a good 2 to 3 minutes. I will go ahead and skip ahead here. And finally makes the call. Once he flips in the chip, I show my hand. And he did show that he had Ace King. So I got extremely lucky with catching the 9 on the end. And he almost got away from paying me off, but his curiosity got the better of him. There were a couple limpers, and I looked down at Ace 10 suited on the button, definitely putting in a raise. I make it $20. End up getting called in 2 spots, so we're going to end up playing this 3 ways in position against 2 limpers. Flop comes out 9-9-3 with 1 club, so I got ace high and a backdoor flush draw. Both players check. If someone doesn't have a 9, they won't feel totally comfortable. They might call with some sort of pocket pair. I decided to bet for $30. I get a quick call from the player who is under the gun. The other player folds out. Turn card comes is now a 10 of spades. It does bring in a flush draw, but gives me top pair, top kicker. He checks it over. I decided to check this one back to see if he had some sort of 9. If he doesn't, I'll get some value on the river. He checks the river when the 6 of hearts comes. I decided to go for a little bit of a larger size bet of $65. The reason I'm doing this is my hand looks very bluffy. If he has some sort of pocket pair, he might pay me off, but he ends up mucking it. I'm in the small blind in the limp pot, and I decided to defend with Queen 10, or complete to $3. It's $12 in the pot, and the flop comes out Queen 10-8, all hearts. So I got top 2. But there's all hearts out there. So I check it. It gets checked all the way around. Turn card comes as a complete blank, 3 of clubs. I check again. It gets checked around to the player in the cutoff. Now, he makes what I consider a very odd bet of $5. If he had something decent, when he bet a little bit bigger and not want to be sucked out on. So I decided just to raise them. I just grabbed some chips. I end up grabbing 30. I don't need to grab 30. I think 20 would have been more than enough. 15 probably would have done the trick. The other 2 players fold out, and he thinks for a little bit, double checks his cards, and puts in the call for the 30. So now I got some alarm bells. Think he might be drawing to a monster, or he already has a monster. 3 of spades doesn't do anything for me. I don't think there's any value in betting this because I'm only going to get called by something better. So I check it, let him bluff at it. If he's bluffing, he bets 40. I go, let's bluff catch. I toss in the 40, and he shows me that he flopped a straight flush. So I lost $70 more than I should have. I did give the man a high five and congratulate him because he did win the high hand of the day also, which was an extra $200. Well, it's pretty card dead for the last couple hours, so I'm here with ace-9 offsuit on the button. Definitely good enough to be putting in a raise when everyone else folds. I get called by the player in the small blind, so it's just going to be the 2 of us, and we're off to see a flop, which is pretty good for me. It comes ace-5-3 with 2 diamonds. I do have the ace of diamonds. He checks it over. This one I'm going to check back, be a little bit tricky on. Turn card comes is a deuce of spades. Not a great card. Of course, it puts up the straight on board, but I don't think he has any of those cards. He decides to lead for $25. I pretend like I'm checking something, and then I make the call. River card comes is a 5 of hearts. That's a pretty good card for me. If he happened to have ace deuce or ace 3, he's now counterfeited. He assembles a bet for $45. There is no way I'm going to be folding this, so I'm just going to be putting in the call. and we take it down when he shows ace-8 offsuit. We continued playing for about another hour or so. Nothing really exciting happened after that. Won a small pot, lose a small pot, boring stuff. But for the week, we ended up booking a win for $155, which is a nice reprieve from the way we were running at last week. Of course, there were some hands I didn't play very well. The hand where the gentleman flopped a straight flush, I gave way too much action on that. My bluff attempt on the 5-6 suited, maybe not the wisest choice in the world. And as many of you know, as longtime followers of my channel, I do not play perfect poker. I make mistakes all the time. I am only human. I am not a canine like Zeus, who has expert knowledge and foresight and, of course, hindsight of poker. So I just let you guys watch me make blunders, watch me make some good plays, and hopefully you can learn from it and incorporate it in your game and become a better player. Thank you for all your support. I really appreciate every one of you for following the channel the way you do. And until next time, good luck at the tables, and we'll see you back here next week.